Are there people like Judas and Abimelech who betray others for money or power? Are we loyal or traitors? Let's examine Judges 9. Was Abimelech's plot completely contrary to his father's wishes? Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers in Shechem and said to them and to all his mother's clan, "Ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I'm your flesh and blood." When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, they were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, "He's related to us." They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, and Abimelech used it to hire reckless scoundrels who became his followers. He went to his father's home in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Milo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Shechem to crown Abimelech king. What did Jerubbaal's or Gideon's youngest son do after escaping the murderous plot? Now when they told Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim and lifted his voice and cried out. And he said to them, "Listen to me, you men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. The trees once went forth to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, 'Reign over us.' But the olive tree said to them, 'Should I cease giving my oil, with which they honor God and men, and go sway over trees?' Then the trees said to the fig tree, 'You come and reign over us.' But the fig tree said to them, 'Should I cease my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to sway over trees?' Then the trees said to the vine, 'You come and reign over us.' But the vine said to them, 'Should I cease my new wine, which cheers both God and men, and go to sway over trees?' Then all the trees said to the bramble, 'You come and reign over us.' And the bramble said to the trees, 'If in truth you anoint me as king over you, then come and take shelter in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.'" What curse did Jotham pronounce, if indeed their decision was dishonorable? Jotham continued, "Now make sure you have acted honorably and in good faith by making Abimelech your king, and that you've done right by Gideon and all of his descendants. Have you treated him with the honor he deserves for all he accomplished? For he fought for you and risked his life when he rescued you from the Midianites. But today you've revolted against my father and his descendants, killing his 70 sons on one stone. And you've chosen his slave woman's son, Abimelech, to be your king, just because he's your relative. If you've acted honorably and in good faith toward Gideon and his descendants today, then may you find joy in Abimelech, and may he find joy in you. But if you've not acted in good faith, then may fire come out from Abimelech and devour the leading citizens of Shechem and Beth Milo. And may fire come out from the citizens of Shechem and Beth Milo and devour Abimelech." Then Jotham escaped and lived in Beer, because he was afraid of his brother Abimelech. How long was it before Jotham's prophecy came to pass? Abimelech was prince over Israel 3 years. Then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and that their blood might be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. The men of Shechem set an ambush for him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who came along that way by them. And Abimelech was told about it. Did the leaders of Shechem shift their allegiance to Gaal? Then Gaal, Ebed's son, and his relatives came passing through Shechem, and the leaders of Shechem shifted their allegiance to him. They went out into the field, cut off clusters from their vineyards, trampled them out, and had a celebration. They entered their God's temple and ate, drank, and made fun of Abimelech. Gaal, Ebed's son, said, "Who's Abimelech, and who are we of Shechem, that we ought to serve him? Didn't this son of Jerubbaal and his deputy Zebul once serve the men of Hamor, Shechem's father? Why should we of all people serve him? If only this people were under my command, I would push Abimelech aside. I would tell Abimelech, build up your army and march out for battle." Was Abimelech's deputy Zebul angry about this betrayal by Gaal? Zebul was angry when he found out what Gaal had said, and so he sent some messengers to Abimelech, but they had to pretend to be doing something else, or they would not have been allowed to leave Shechem. Zebul told the messengers to say, "Gaal the son of Ebed has come to Shechem along with his brothers, and they've persuaded the people to let Gaal rule Shechem instead of you. This is what I think you should do. Lead your army here during the night and hide in the fields. Get up the next morning at sunrise and rush out of your hiding places to attack the town. Gaal and his followers will come out to fight you, but you'll easily defeat them." Did Abimelech win the day and chase Gaal his enemy away? So Abimelech and all the men who were with him rose up by night and set an ambush against Shechem in 4 companies. And Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. And Abimelech and the people who were with him rose from the ambush. And when Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, "Look, people are coming down from the mountaintops." And Zebul said to him, "You mistake the shadow of the mountains for men." Gaal spoke again and said, "Look, people are coming down from the center of the land, and one company is coming from the direction of the diviner's oak." Then Zebul said to him, "Where's your mouth now? You who said, 'Who's Abimelech, that we should serve him?' Aren't these the people whom you despised? Go out now and fight with them." And Gaal went out at the head of the leaders of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. And Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. And many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. And Abimelech lived at Aramah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his relatives, so that they couldn't dwell at Shechem. Did Abimelech also conquer the city of Shechem and destroy it? The next day, when the people went into the countryside, this was reported to Abimelech. He took the people, divided them into 3 companies, and waited in ambush in the countryside. He looked, and the people were coming out of the city. So he arose against them and struck them down. Then Abimelech and the units that were with him rushed forward and took their stand at the entrance of the city gate. The other 2 units rushed against all who were in the countryside and struck them down. So Abimelech fought against the city that entire day, captured it, and killed the people who were in it. Then he tore down the city and sowed it with salt. Did Abimelech then kill all the lords of the city of Shechem? When all the lords at the tower of Shechem heard what had happened, they retreated into the inner chamber of the temple of El-Berith. Abimelech was told that all the lords of the Shechem tower had assembled there. So he went up to Mount Zalmon, accompanied by his entire army. Abimelech had an axe in his hand. So he cut down a branch from a tree, lifted it up and laid it on his shoulder. Then he told the army that had accompanied him, "You've seen what I just did. Hurry up, do the same thing." Then his entire army also cut down a branch for each soldier, followed Abimelech to the inner chamber, and set fire to it while they were inside. As a result, all the men of the tower of Shechem died, including about 1,000 men and women. Was Abimelech eventually fatally wounded by a woman and brought to an end? Then went Abimelech to Thebez, and encamped there against Thebez, and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and there fled all the men and women, and all they of the city, and shut it to them, and got them up to the top of the tower. And Abimelech came to the tower, and fought against it, and went hard to the door of the tower to burn it with fire. And a certain woman cast a piece of millstone upon Abimelech's head, and all to break his skull. Then he called hastily to the young man his armor-bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and slay me, that men may not say of me, a woman slew him. And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed every man to his place. Thus God rendered the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did to his father in slaying his 70 brothers. And all the evil of the men of Shechem did God render upon their heads. And upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal. Is betrayal in the church a rare thing or to be expected? And at that time, many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. Are there people like Judas and Abimelech who betray others for money or power? Are we loyal or traitors? You decide.